G'day guys, Matty here from Exponential Performance Coaching. This week's Whiteboard Wednesday, I want to do a wee review of SOS Rehydrate, which is a new hydration product that's recently come onto the market. I was sent some samples and I want to use this opportunity to provide a completely unbiased review on it. I don't get anything out of it. All I got is these 2 boxes of stuff, and then this is the first anyone's heard of my review. People who even sent this to me haven't heard of it either, so let's see what I think about it. Each of these boxes contains 5 sachets. Each sachet makes a 500 mils of the drink. And what I want to do is just take a look at some different aspects of it and see how it stacks up. The little components that I want to look at is fuel, sodium, osmolarity, the taste, and the practicality of it. So let's have a look at fuel. When we're talking about fuel, we're talking about carbohydrates. So there's sort of general recommendations that sports drinks should be somewhere between 4 and 8% carbohydrate to provide that fuel and hydration. SOS here in the red clocks in at 1.5% carbohydrate. So it's very low in carbohydrate. It only contains 110 kilojoules or 25 calories if you're that way inclined. What they've done is they've focused on the hydration aspect only for this drink. Now, as soon as you start to add carbohydrate to a rehydration formula, it compromises the hydration aspect. Okay, so what they've done is they've cut out most of the carbohydrate and just gone for optimizing the hydration. This is good in terms of it optimizes the hydration, but what it does is that if you're racing on this stuff, you still have to get your carbohydrates from some other means, whether it be gels or bars or another drink. So the last thing you want to do is go out with this stuff thinking it's got carbohydrate in it and it doesn't, and then not having enough fuel to complete your race or your training or whatever. So be very aware that this is not very good for fueling. They've focused on the hydration aspect. Let's move on to sodium. The guidelines for the amount of sodium or salt for hydration is somewhere between 500 and 700 milligrams. SOS clocks in at 696 milligrams of sodium. So this is a particularly salty number. Yeah, when I drank it, I noticed it tasted salty. So sodium helps with fluid retention. So when you drink, if you just drink pure water, it'll get absorbed into your body and you'll just pee it all out. And that's why if you've ever drunk a lot, you've got clear urine. It's just because you're peeing out all the fluid you just consumed. What sodium does is it helps the body absorb that out of the blood into the muscles and out into the fluid that surrounds your muscle cells and all of the other cells of your body. So having the sodium is critical, and as you can see, SOS ticks the box. It's extremely salty. Osmolarity, now that's kind of related to sodium, but what it is it's all of the dissolved particles within a fluid. And so your body's plasma is somewhere between 285 to 290 milliosmoles, and that there is what they call isotonic. So if a drink is isotonic, it's somewhere within that range of your plasma. Ideally, a drink wants to be slightly below that, hypotonic. And what this does is it maximizes the absorption. Okay, so somewhere less than 270 milliosmoles is good. Hypertonic, slightly hypertonic. SOS clocks in at 230 milliosmoles. So it's within that, but it's below 270, so it ticks the box there as well. Again, these guys have really looked at the hydration aspect and focused on how you can maximize that fluid absorption. Let's have a look over at taste, because taste is a critically important part of it. You can have the best formulated sports drink rehydration fluid of ever. You could have all the scientists working on the world on it, but if it tastes like crap, you're not going to drink it, and then you're not going to be hydrated. So taste is key. So the recommendations are it's got a pleasant taste. Okay. Now SOS is pretty good. I particularly like the citrus one compared to the blueberry. As far as I'm aware, it's only those two flavours. I only got sent those two, so I can only comment on those. Blueberry, it's not too bad either, but they don't taste great. If you were just to drink them sitting here in a room, like I say, they taste particularly salty, not overly nice. When you're out there under the pump, you're sweating, you've been pushing hard for a while, they're manageable. They're manageable. So taste has got a tick as well. Practicality. This is where a few things for me didn't quite match up. Good product, ticking the hydration boxes, but let's have a think about some practical implications. Each one of these sachets makes up 500 mils. Now most drink bottles, especially for cyclists, are 750 mils. So it doesn't actually match up with what a lot of people are using. So if you were to make up a 750 ml bottle and you were to fill the water all the way to the top and just add one of these, automatically what happens is you change the osmolarity, you change the sodium content per 100 mils, and so it throws off the hydration optimization that they've been aiming for. So I personally would have preferred if it came in 750 ml servings, so you could just dump it in your bottle and you're away, or in a container where you could measure it out. So the serving size to me seems a little unpractical. If you did want to stick with the optimal hydration, which is what they're really on about, you'd have to use one packet and then measure out another part packet as well, which sort of seems a bit awkward. The other thing, just touching on it, is the waste. Every sachet is a serving and then you throw it away and it's done. So kind of seems a little bit wasteful as well, having all the packaging, but coming from a sort of clean, green, sustainable aspect, that would be another downfall for me. If it was in just a container, you could scoop it out, serve up however much you wanted. It would sort of take away that additional waste. However, it is nice having them in the packets if you're travelling, especially sort of international long haul flights. You've got it all there packaged up nicely. You don't have to worry about security and carrying a large amount of white powder in a Ziploc bag or something like that. Also, I wrote down the adaptability. One thing I like about having sports drinks in a container is that you can mix it up depending on the conditions you're facing. So, for an example, in the cold, your performance is mainly affected by your fuel, by your carbohydrate content. So if you wake up and it's the day of your race and it's a particularly cool morning and you see the weather forecast is going to be cool, what I'd suggest is putting more carbohydrate in the beverage that you're consuming to maximise that component of your performance. On the other hand, if it's a very hot day, the thing that's going to impede or govern your performance the most is your hydration or the fluid component, and that's where nailing the sodium and the osmolarity of it really come in. So it's not very adaptable in that it only comes in one packet. You can't change too much about it. So there are my thoughts on the new SOS hydration. Take from it what you will, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, not a bad product. A few practical things, and just remember, if you're using it for fuel, you're not going to get very far because it has very minimal carbohydrate content. So there you have it. If you've got any questions about it, feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to answer any other questions about SOS. Otherwise, get out there, keep training hard, keep the questions coming, so I can keep giving you the good information so you can train harder, but most importantly, smarter.